the the other question, which I know what Carson's answer would be, but the question that was most memorable to me was the one Violet asks of who out of us do you think will die first?
Yes.
To which Carson's laughing immediately, saying Lewis. I would have honestly picked me if I was an option,
Hmm.
because I usually take more risks than people, and but that wasn't an option, so
Yeah.
that one I actually just kept silent.
Yeah.
What did you
I
choose?
felt like.
What did you choose, Mark?
Yeah. What did you choose, Mark?
I just said anyone but me. I didn't want to choose any three of them.
I give you
How
a
did they
high five
respond
for
to
that.
that? Do you remember how they responded?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Okay.
No, sorry.
How about you, Carson? What did you say?
Well, I think
Lewis?
you already know what my answer is. Yes, I
What
said
did Lewis say?
I said Lewis, and then Vi went Lewis, and Marlon said, "Yep, most definitely Lewis." And
Nice.
We all agree with you.
I love that. That's hilarious. I love
What did
that.
Lewis say?
you're gonna be surprised, but he said, "Yeah, most definitely me."
Okay, let me.
I was like, "Yes, I'm winning this war."
That's the thing about like that question. I feel like me personally, I don't know if any of you guys felt the same way. I felt like I probably took that question too seriously. Because as many people in the chats were saying, is that they felt that it was more of just a whole group of, teens just joking around. Like, I don't think any of them necessarily would have taken any answer personally. It was just something that you would try to bring some levity to their situation and be like, so which one of us do you think will die first? It was more like just kind of joking around, or
I guess it's like what's the game? Kiss, Kill, Marry, or what's it called?
yeah, like that.
I guess.
So I feel like I took it way too seriously. I was overthinking. It's like, I don't know if I should say this person or that person.
I think I was exactly. I was right there. I was like, are they going to take offense to this? Are they going to see it as a threat? Are they going to see it as
Right, exactly.
Yeah, but to be fair, just to throw it out there, here were the in-game questions and answers. If for grossest thing eaten, if I don't know if anyone chose that, Marlon chooses a slug, Violet chooses a horse eyeball, and Lewis gets a cantaloupe, and if
Cantaloupe. Okay.
no, it gets better. Clementine's answer. It is detriment. You can choose it, but I had to research it. It is a man's leg, and this is from season 1 with the farmer family and the cannibals.
Oh, that's right.
Only if you didn't save Clementine from having that. Woo! And
Wait, so Clementine says that?
yeah, only if you choose to.
Oh,
Huh.
that's interesting.
But they remembered that.
Oh,
Now, we already
that is
got-
so cool.
Yeah, the worst entry, we already covered that, and we got
Real quick on the taste thing. I would have also accepted cowlick,
That's true.
season 1.
Cowlick.
but don't taste it. Don't lick it. It's gross.
Yeah, I don't know what the options are, but we could obviously look at it. But it is optional, a detriment that you could say a man's leg.
That is interesting, huh?
I
I'm
wonder what
appreciate-
everyone's reaction would have been like.
I'm appreciative that they remembered that, though. That they're still.
Yeah, I
like-
appreciate that ends up being referenced
Yeah.
and mattered. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So
Cool. Yeah, that card game definitely added a lot.
Yeah.
I thought to the episode.
Wait, but I just to remind myself, just a quick question: who did you say was going to die most likely?
I remained silent. I didn't answer the question.
Oh,
And then I dodged the bullet.
Snarky Clem back at it
Snarky
again.
Clem.
So then we.
One-
Go ahead.
I was gonna say one part about that card game that I also really liked was you had the ability to define what your relationship or lack thereof with Gabe was. Because I know that this is very controversial, but I personally liked Gabe.
I like.
So I tried to answer it in such a way where Clementine had some feelings for him.
I said that too. I
so-
would have. Yeah. Design wise, the next part when after that Game of War and after dinner, when you go into the room, that first thing that like jumped out at me is the notice of any collectibles you get can be placed here,
Mm-hmm.
which to me screamed out okay, not screwed out. To me, that immediately said, "Oh my gosh, we're going to be returning to this room a lot.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be some consistency for once, and not seasons 2 and 3, which were just going everywhere. Even
Mm-hmm.
1, you were always traveling all the time. So yeah, so the bed situation. How did you handle that, Hark?
I encouraged him to sleep on the bed just because this is an opportunity that you may not get a lot of, and you might as well take advantage of actually sleeping on a bed for once.
Right.
And I was right, as in AJ was like, this is really comfortable. So
Yeah,
you need to listen to me, kid.
Dude, I'm the parent. I know what's best.
Same for you, Mark.
Yeah, I encourage him to sleep on the bed.
Same.
Well, I actually don't know what I would have done. Because, yeah, the bed is more comfy, but if he does feel safer in the ground, then, I'm not gonna force him to sleep somewhere where he's gonna be uncomfortable and scared the entire night. I want him to feel safe, and if under the bed is where he feels safe, then go ahead. But I honestly don't know. I think I would have picked the bed though, because I'm like that.
Well, I mean, yes, I convinced him to sleep on the bed, but the thing is, I was actually leaning towards, okay, sleep under the bed. If we didn't trust these people, you can sleep under the bed and just hide there. Nobody would see us. But in truth, here's what the poll was, and this wasn't even close. It was 66% of players convinced AJ to sleep on the bed, and 34% of players let AJ sleep under the bed. And I understood what AJ was saying, his rationale. It made sense to me, and I wanted to agree with him, but my kid needed to sleep on a bed
He
immediately.
deserved it, yeah.
Yes, that's right. My kid deserves to sleep on a bed.
Wait, no, I just realized this is also the night where he starts drawing. What did you do when Violet is asking for the coloring, the other coloring utensils to bring back the 10 outside?
I gave it back because I felt like, it was his sister's, and, it should go to the brother because, he obviously deserves it more, like as a memory to hold on to his sisters. And I thought that was the best thing to do, because why would I rip that away from 10? That just seemed really morally wrong.
Well, what I think where the gray area came from is that it wasn't that you were ripping it. It's not like you were ripping it out of his hands. It was Jane was looking for them. They were it wasn't even like they were looking for anything specific. She was just looking for any more things, and then she even says, "You know what? It's okay. You can have it." And then you have the choice of either turning back and giving it back to her, or letting AJ continue to play with them.
Well, but that's the guilt trip everyone does. Like, oh, no, it's okay. It's okay. You can have it. I don't want it. It's okay. You fall for that so easily.
Not me. AJ continued coloring.
You didn't give it back.
No.
Oh, interesting.
Saw them as.
What did you choose, Mark? Did you choose to give it back?
Yeah, I told him to give it back.
As a parenting lesson, would you think it was good to give it back so AJ learns, like, hey, it's best to give back to someone? Or you just, in Lucky Jack's answer, is it good to keep it because, hey, it's mine now?
I wasn't really seeing it as it's his now. I was seeing it as at least they're being put to some use, and not just like you can. I would feel like as an artist, you would at least want the thing to still be creating the art that you like, not that it should just be taken away and no one can use it ever again. Or I don't know. Bear in mind, now that I've seen what all these little things can turn AJ into at the end of this, I'll probably be making different decisions in later episodes.
Yeah, I mean, I did it. I gave it back because for me, I thought this was another rare opportunity because AJ doesn't interact with people enough. So I found this as a rare opportunity to teach him about letting people's property and sharing and things like that. So
yeah, that was the question I was asking.
Speaking of Violet, though, you do get into a very cool one-on-one conversation with her. She opens up a little bit, softens up a little bit, makes herself a little bit more vulnerable. I do admit that on hindsight, I felt that I might have been too honest with my responses with her. Maybe I should have been a little bit less, not dishonest, but like a little bit more
reserved.
She basically was opening up about how she has a hard time like opening up to people And I don't. To be fair, I think that it's great that she recognizes that and she's honest about it. My Clementine basically agreed. It says, "Yeah, you were kind of rough on me when we first met," and I didn't think that was like a really horrible thing to say. It's like, "Yeah, you were kind of." Not like, yeah, like I hated you because blah blah blah. But it seemed like Violet didn't take that very well when Clementine was being honest. So
I played the route of having Clementine try to make that comparison of, oh yeah, I'm kind of like that to make that comparison between the two of them, I guess.
Maybe part of me was just feeling like, and for better for worse, like I think part of me was just playing if somebody did something that bothered you, I felt like it's a disservice to them to just play it off like, oh no, that didn't really bother me when it actually did.
Yeah.
I just feel like that doesn't help in the long run because you're pretending something's not wrong at all and not giving them a free pass. But I feel like it doesn't help your relationship if you started off lying to them about stuff like that. But I can understand that the other argument of, maybe once you establish more of a friendship, you have the ability to be more honest to them about those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Next
All
day.
right. Next day. So this is when Clementine sees 10, and then they have that sharing scene, which I kind of already talked about. I don't know if there was more that you want to talk about with that.
Yeah, I'm good.
I actually thought there was something more significant about that scene. It's that AJ has no idea what a fighter or a police officer was.
Yes.
That was what got to me more. I was like, I was like this. I was having a moment like, it's a policeman. I was like, oh, it's a fireman. I was like, oh, come on, AJ. Oh, right, man.
Yeah,
I was
know
like,
what that is.
I was like, okay, how do I explain this to him?
I was going to say I liked how he asked, where are they now? Yeah.
And we're just like, yeah. I also noted that 10 said that those were the people who had saved them initially, but now they're no longer with them.
Mm-hmm.
The policemen and firemen. I don't know where they are now, but just, the fact that something happened and we start to learn a little bit more about what's really going on here, but something happened to the adults. And so, sharing scene. Then while we're looking around waiting for Marlin, we get a visit from Rosie.
The question is, how did you react to that sharing scene? Because I was shocked how AJ, he's like, it's mine now.
It's just, I just saw it as, it's just natural. Like it's again, like Hark said earlier, they're not born with the sharing thing. And I've lived with a younger brother. There's always the mine, the me, the mine phase where everything is yours and you don't want to share like that. It just seemed natural.
Yeah.
Well, I'm the younger brother, so
that was
I don't know what are you trying to say, Lucky Jack?
Yeah, so then you meet up with Rosie with Marlin shortly after. And I think we already talked about the PTSD of the dog, dealing with dogs. And then Marlin starts talking about they need food. Here's some options. We're looking at hunting versus fishing. And it seemed like everybody in the comment section of my video agreed. Why are we not going to this greenhouse? Why are we not fixing up this greenhouse?
Right.
Greenhouse is a good idea.
All they
Why
say
is that not a third option?
All he says is, "Oh, it's just out of repair." And it's like, then repair it. And it's like, worst case scenario, there's a walker in there, and why wouldn't you get rid of the walker in your facility? Like, it can be fake. It can.
Yeah, it's a greenhouse, for goodness sakes.
That section in particular, both times when you take out that map, I'm like, it's clear the game wants me to do this, and it's clear that that's a bad decision that will just cause conflict, but the train station is the only real option that we're going to have to be left with later. And I'm like, can there just...
Yeah.
Well, two things that was, to me, very important in that whole scene was, first off, when the dog comes in, they asked you, like, a choice. It became a decision. Do you trust Marlin to, like, give you to like get over your fear of dogs and see if you can trust Rosie? And that was important to me because I'm thinking, okay, is this gonna is this gonna help Clementine in the future with dogs and everything? Is this gonna be something important?
Maybe.
Or is it just gonna be like, I don't trust dogs ever? But the other thing that got to me was this whole concept of the safe zone.
Mm-hmm.
I just think like, why are you choosing to like draw borders of a safe zone? Now I can understand if like zombies are hanging around the river. That makes sense to me. I didn't understand like that whole concept. Like, why do you have a certain safe zone?
I have a theory, but we'll talk about that later. But I
Okay.
have a theory, and all I'll say is that I don't think it has anything to do with walkers. I think it's
Oh,
something else.
I see. Yeah, I see what you're going with there. I didn't think about that until you just mentioned it. But we'll talk about that.
Yeah. So we get to our first big split point.
Yes.
Yeah. So how did you guys decide on what to do, fishing versus hunting? I feel like I know Carson's motivation, but if you want to explain further, Carson.
Uh, um, well, this is a very difficult spotlight you put me on, but I obviously went to go with Violet and Brody. Now, to be fair, I wanted to give Asim a shot because when you saw him talking to Marlon, I was like, man, this Asim guy and him writing down and everything, this seems like a guy I want to get to know more. I mean, he's my number 2 guy I'm curious about, but there's something about that other girl that Violet's going with. I want to know more about her. Yeah, I know who I was saying. I was just saying that to myself, but like,
Sorry.
who do I want to go? I mean, obviously, I had my own feelings with Lewis, but I think I chose to go with Violet Brody more because I wanted to. I think it was at that time and age, I wanted Clementine to have a little girl talk with the 2 girls, and I mean, sure, they can bring the little guy around, but I thought like for AJ's sake, it would be much more better if he was taught how to fish than to like lay out traps. Because I mean, yes, trap placing could be good, but it would be better if AJ knows how to at least get some fish so he can still eat. And let's say I'm not around anymore, AJ knows how to fish and he can take care of himself.
True, very true, very practical. In general, Alex, are you Team Lewis or Team Violet, if at all, or are you indifferent?
Honestly, I don't know. I love them both so much.
Really?
But
No.
yeah, I love them so much. They're my children. But but if I was in Clementine's place, I would already have fallen for Louis like immediately because he's my type on every single angle.
No.
Everywhere. But Violet is super valid, and I would really, and you know, I'm a sucker for queerness in video games, so it's like going her route immediately confirms Clem as bi, even though going for Louis doesn't make her any less bisexual than she already clearly is. But I love them both, but Louis won me over immediately.
Which choice did you make, Mark?
I went with Violet and Brody.
And why?
Just to warm up to Violet a little bit more, like as a direct consequence of the aftermath of that conversation we had in the bedroom, and and kind of like what Carson says, like have that girl talk.
Okay.
Yeah. How about you, Lucky Jack?
I decided to go with Asim and Lewis. What was a main driving motivation through this whole thing was learning a bit more about Asim and his ideas, since I definitely, bear in mind, this was, again, not knowing how the episode was going to end, only knowing what I did at this point. I thought to myself there was going to be some conflict between Asim and Marlon because they were getting a little confrontational about this subject, so I'd rather know as much as I can about both sides before I'm expected to perhaps weigh in on a decision. And number 2 was Lewis. You learn because you see a picture of it when AJ pulls it out. Is Lewis was Marlon's best friend back in their academy days. So Lewis, I could see, and you definitely see it later. Lewis and Marlon are close, and there's a sense of trust. And so I thought, I was thinking back to episode 1 of both season 1 and season 2, thinking like there's going to be I was worried, is the episode going to end right now? Am I going to have to make a choice that could mean the life or death of people? And I'd rather try and protect Lewis right now, because I know that if Marlon lost Lewis, there would be much more hell to pay in terms of how he would react to that than if any of the other people were removed. Again, not knowing how I'd be delightfully surprised that this episode was a lot more filled with content than I thought it was going to be, and that no actual real danger yet. So I went with Lewis in a sim.
I think I would have tried to stick with Lewis because, yeah,
Oh, so you went
he's
hunting.
absolutely my type.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
but I do think that going fishing, it's a lot quote unquote better because it introduces you more to Brody, which makes the whole scene at the end a lot more heart wrenching.
Yes, thank you. Me and Mark, and apparently, well, you didn't really do it. Me and Mark have that in common. We felt that heart wrench.
I also chose to go hunting, again, not necessarily because I wanted to hang out with Lewis, but more so because I wanted to hang out with Asim.
Yeah.
And as that played out, uh, Lewis did something that really turned me off to his character. That pretty much solidified the choice when it was choosing between hanging out more with Lewis versus hanging out with Asim. I beelined over to Asim just because that Lewis bothered me that much. But I probably would have still hung out with Asim anyway, just because even going in, I was more curious about learning more about him.
But actually, there was a poll about this. It was an in-game decision, a major one apparently, and it was probably one of the closest I've seen in a while. 52% went with Violet and Brody, and 48% with Lewis and Asim.
That was different. When I did, I think it was only 34% that went with them, or maybe it was something else. When I played it, but
yeah. Do we want to hear the Lewis and Asim scenario, or do we want to hear the Violet and Brody scenario first?
I'd actually like to hear from Mark first about Mark. Mark, how does the Violet and Brody scenario play out?
Sure. So you go to like the cabin down by the river, and you go fishing. You give a spear to AJ, and he goes off fishing. But first, you talk to Brody, and she talks about 10 sisters, Sophie and Minerva, and how, yeah, and what happened. At least the story that we're told at the time, and that Violet actually blames Brody for what happened because she was with the sisters when what happened happened.
Yeah.
Oh.
It gets really deep when you do that.
Interesting. That is cool.
That makes
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it makes sense of why she would know things that she does later. And actually definitely brings into question how much she was involved. Now that I know that she was with them before they didn't come back.
Yeah, in the scene, it's you basically like what Mark is saying. You basically are chit chatting, but Brody's trying to keep this optimistic, good attitude. Like, oh, where would you want to go if we had a working car and everything? Because you're like, oh yeah, my car is totaled and gone. It's broken down. She's like, where would you go? And you get this option. You can either go like the mountains. You can go to the beach. But those, now I remember. It was like somewhere in the snow, somewhere in the mountains, and somewhere in the beach. And I chose the beach because like, oh yeah, okay, that's cool. And she makes a reference to that back to you when like what me and Mark went through. She makes a reference back to what that choice was. You talk to Brody like because obviously it looks like Violet and Brody do not like. Brody's trying to reach out to Violet, but Violet is not having it. So when you talk to her, like what Mark said, she blames her like. Brody kind of blames herself, but she believes Violet is heavily blaming on her for losing the twins. And it's like a huge impact right there. You're like, oh shoot, so this is a tough scenario.
Are there similar to how we'll see with Lewis and Asim, what's like the main driving like reason why you would get a choice to either hang out more with Violet or hang out more with Brody?
No, you just have to hang out with it goes like in scenario like this. Violet goes to hang out, set the traps or take a look at the traps. You go with Brody.
Oh, you're not given a choice.
No, you're not given a choice.
Okay.
You go with Brody first, and then Brody asks, "Hey, can you talk to Can you talk to Violet to see if you can find out if she's mad at me or if there's any way we can repair this relationship between us?" And it just I was like, I tried to choose the scenario, but I accidentally went snarky clam silent, and it was like, oh okay, I'm sorry, okay, thanks for thinking about it. I want Mark to say what Violet's point of view was on the whole scene.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll get into that, but first, so after you talk to Brody, you're in the shack, and you get spears. Now, this was alluded to before, but we actually get a big reveal. You go toward the back of the shack, and you see a heart written on the wall, and it says V plus M, Violet and Minerva. So we have confirmation that Violet is a lesbian, and she was in a relationship with Minerva, one of 10 sisters.
Yeah,
That's why
interesting.
That's why she's okay.
Yeah, I wanted Mark to say this. It was really cool, and I was like,
That is so cool.
oh,
Huh.
I don't care. I still
Very
love Violet.
interesting.
I still love Violet.
But yeah, huh. So okay. So then that's why she was so close then with 10
Right.
or was just as affected emotionally probably.
Right.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, she
Not even a joke.
That explains why she's a bit closed off.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was
That's
weird.
really explains it. That's kind of cool. All right. I was going to ask you about hunting because you actually are given a choice who to hang out more with, Asim versus Lewis, and I don't know who you chose.
I chose Lewis.
Interesting.
But-
cool, because I chose Asim.
I now again, but now I agree with you. During that initial conversation, of course, I was joking along with him, like, "Oh, I'm a ninja too," and they all take their weird little poses. It's so weird. But the only thing that was again running through my mind was we have a walker in the so okay. So to explain for Carson and Mark, so you're going into the woods, and Asim makes it very clear. You instantly in like the first minute get this impression that Asim is very much go-getter. He wants to do everything. He wants to stay on top of things. Complete opposite from Lewis. He would rather lays about. I think he quote unquote says, I like to treat survival as a day-to-day thing, not a I'll if it needs doing, I'll get it done, but if not, why worry, why stress? And so then when you come up to one of the rabbit traps, and possible it may come up in later episodes, he mentions that every tree that has tape around it has a trap near it, like a rabbit trap, so do with that information as you will. You come up and you see that one of the rabbit snares caught up a walker and now has it suspended upside down, and Asim wants Lewis to take the walker out of the trap, be done with it, let's move on. And Lewis is like, let's have some fun with it. As he takes out the chair leg with nails and decides to play a little bit of some pinata with it. And at that moment, see, then you get the choice of Carson will agree. You get the choice of, will you help Asim actually hunt, or will you hang out with Lewis and goof off and play pinata with a walker? Completely thinking practically, I agree with Hark. The only thing that changed my mind was, again, trying to defend Lewis's life. And I don't know if he's going to do something stupid and get messed up by a walker. So I was thinking I should stick near him so that I can protect him from this walker if things turn sour.
Which I totally understand.
Now knowing that absolutely nothing happens and it was just a harmless situation, I would have gone with Asim.
Well, yeah, but
hindsight
again, you didn't know that. Yeah, hindsight. Yeah.
So what you do is that so I'll say my thing is that if you decide to stay with Lewis, Asim doesn't really treat you that much differently. I don't think he doesn't seem very negative about it. If anything, he just thinks it as at least you were helping him get it done and not at least he got it done then. But so what you do is you just take 3 swings. You actually get to play pinata with a walker.
Oh wow. Okay.
So you get to whack him, and then you get to say to Lewis how it made you felt. To which I said I chose the option again in front of AJ. I chose the option of hitting the walker felt good, as in stress relief. Which I'm now wondering if that now instilled an aggressive equals positive thing with AJ. But that was my choice. Whack the walker and pretend to be the fun guy again around Lewis because I want him to be likable and I want him to stay alive because he seems. Yeah. How about what happens if you go to a sim?
Yeah, so I think I explained in my live stream that the whole pinata thing didn't sit very well with me and Lewis because it was, again, going with the theme of teaching AJ about death. I really wanted to teach AJ about respecting the dead, even though those people, they're not, I believe that once you become a walker, it's not you anymore.
Right.
But that's still your body, and I feel like you can have fun. Like swinging on a swing set tire is fun and is a proper toy. I feel like walkers are not toys, and you shouldn't be using walkers as toys because that's disrespecting the dead. I immediately was turned off by Lewis at that point and immediately went for Asim. But the other thing that was going for Asim is that he is very much like me, in that I am very like, make sure that I'm prepared, and I'm very much not like Lewis, where I like Lewis in the sense that I think we need someone who is a little bit more of a comic relief kind of person and is able to take levity, which is why I really miss Omid, because while Omid is a more lighthearted character, Omid is serious when he needs to be serious, which Lewis is not. I feel like there's a time and a place to be joking around.
Omid or Asim?
Asim. I feel like Omid actually takes things seriously when he needs to take things seriously, whereas Lewis does not. I feel like sometimes Lewis inappropriately doesn't take things seriously enough when he should. And the whole situation with him playing around, fooling around, whacking a walker as a piñata, I thought was a time when he should have taken things a lot more seriously than he did.
Felt more immature.
It was a bit immature. Now, granted, again, to his defense, Lewis is a kid versus Omid is a young adult, so I understand that. But I felt like my Clementine was a little bit more mature than that. So that's why she went with Asim.
Mostly, like, dude, it's dangerous. Yeah, it's fun, and that thing is dead, but it's dangerous. You're gonna get bitten. Please cut that off. Also, we need food. So, yeah, that would have basically been it. I think I would have helped Asim, to be honest.
Okay. So it was less about anything morally. It was more, it's fun, but don't, get bitten. And
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
You're such a Lewis apologetic. I wanted him to die in episode 1.
Oh.
Stop. Rude.
But really what happens is when you go with Asim is you go hunting for rabbits, and there's the quick time where you have to actually target rabbits and try to shoot them and capture them. And then the story continues on because they need to get more food, and then they eventually meet up with Brody and Violet.
Oh, there was also that baby rabbit, which I chose to spare because that's it.
That's true. The baby rabbit that you chose to spare because you don't want to kill off all of the food that's in the forest, because that's going to screw you over too eventually, long term.
Which personality-wise, Asim visit with us. Lewis was like, "No, let's eat now. We have it. I'm hungry now." Lewis was not. Lewis is very short-term minded, not long.
Right. And versus long term. And to Lewis's defense, I understand that too, because you can die tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
he doesn't know if he's going to live long enough to see the rabbit grow up.
Exactly. Saving a rabbit when you can just eat it now, you have no idea if you're necessarily going to take advantage of the long game. But I definitely am like Asim, where I do care about the long game. So.
Yeah. Did you want to talk about this? Did you guys, unless Mark already covered it because I was away for a little while, did you guys want to hear the top conversation you had with Violet and Clementine? Or was that already covered?
I don't think it was covered.
I don't think so.
No, would you prefer I do this, Mark, or would you? I'd rather let us both decide since we both had that scene.
You could take over because I was talking the first half, so.
Yeah. So basically, after you finish talking with Brody and you're doing the fishing and everything, and you let AJ like, which I was a little concerned because the spear was like 3 times as big as him. You're like, okay, AJ, here you go fishing. Good, you got this. Good luck, buddy. I was laughing at this in my head, but when you're talking to Violet, you're actually learning a little bit more about her. Like, you find out that instead of Brody and the Tennessee twins that went out and then the twins like died, you discover that it was supposed to be Violet that was supposed to go on that tour because she wanted to go on the she wanted to work in the greenhouse, so she asked Brody to cover for her, which is in some case Violet says, I don't blame Brody, I blame myself because I should have been in that group at the time.
Interesting.
So they were in the greenhouse and that was where the two
No, they were like the two went out, like they went hunting or doing something, and Brody decided to cover for Violet because Violet wanted to be in the greenhouse at the time, and Violet blames herself like she should have been in the group at that time.
That was when the greenhouse was still a thing.
Yeah, when the greenhouse was still a thing, and it chews her up, and she says, "Look, I don't blame Brody at all. I blame myself for this whole thing," and you could really feel she's more guilty, if anything. Like it hits her hard, and to my surprise, you can tell her to forgive her, or to go and talk to Brody, or to just like be like, "Yeah, it's totally her fault. Get used to it." And it's like kind of weird, but I obviously sympathize with her and say, "Hey, you should just talk to Brody, see like everything." And in my scene, I don't know if it might be different from Mark's because I went snarky Clem accidentally. When you're walking away, Brody goes like, "I thought you didn't want to talk about it," and I was like, I remember seeing. She goes, like, okay. It really has a good scene, and that's where we meet up with Lewis at a scene, where that's where, unless I miss anything, Mark, you can fill it in.
No, that's pretty much it.
And actually, that's actually a good point. Is it also with this split branches? There's also, I imagine, the way that they link up is different.
Yeah.
Because for Hark and I, we see Asim and Lewis both agreeing the rabbit's not enough. We need to go. We'll check up on the fishing shed, and when we go to the fishing shed, that's when we find it in the disarray that it's in. How about you? What about you guys, Mark? How do you guys go up to the hunting forest?
Yeah, we go to the snares and traps.
Okay.
And what do you find there?
Pretty much the same thing, where they only have a few rabbits. So, but of course, since Clementine wasn't there, they have less rabbits because you weren't there.
Yeah, of course.
And then
you weren't there,
and then
helping Lewis to hit the pinata.
Yeah.
Because that would have definitely gotten you more rabbits, Logan. I'm just playing Lucky Jack.
I just imagine if he didn't do that, like, oh, Lewis was bored, so he ate half the rabbits. So, therefore, we have less rabbits because no one played with him.
Yes.
So do both of these paths end up taking you back to the fishing shed?
I believe so. No, back to the train station, I think.
No, but at the shed, like it's the shed that's where you first find that you've been robbed.
Oh, you're right. Right, that's true.
So do you guys see that too, Carson, Mark, or do you guys find it at the hunting?
When we go to the forest and everything, what we find is, I guess for you guys, something bad happens at the fishing shed, because when we're done, we got like a whole bucket of fish, and AJ's like, "I caught a fish." Yeah, he did. I was surprised at that. When we walk into the forest, we notice that we see the traps and everything, and like, oh, okay, so this is how all the traps work. One of them looks intentionally cut, like somebody cut it. Okay. And we're like, wait, that is not supposed to be like that, and let's investigate. We see a pool of blood, and we see like this is how the trap works. And AJ seems to find something, but I forget what it is.
Gotcha. And then you eventually meet up, and then end up going to the train station to find more food.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And does Brody leave? Did Brody leave you guys?
Yeah, she left us. She was like, listen out, like, no, we can't leave the station. We can't leave the station. I can't do this.
Very,
Interesting.
Okay.
Okay.
Assuming it's the same piece of evidence we found, when you're in the fishing lodge, you come back from hunting to find everything is stolen. There's even one of the spears is embedded into a walker outside, so a walker fight had happened. And when you're looking by the fire, you find a rolled up Bible page as a makeshift cigarette.
That's what it probably was. I think that's what we find. I
Okay.
was not remembering, but I do know this. It was. I'm assuming it was Angela, not Angela. It was Lucky Jack's scenario. We find the zombie upside down, like in a pinata, with an arrow right through its mouth.
Okay.
Which, yeah, okay, so that would probably been.
That was probably Lewis.
No, he didn't. He doesn't use a bow and arrow.
Oh.
In fact, in my scenario, an arrow is never used to kill the walker at all. Clementine just bludgeons it with the pinata style. So
yeah, Mark, was
it
an arrow? I'm pretty sure it was an arrow.
I don't recall, but
yeah, the fact that an arrow is involved, that's interesting. So yeah, Hart, go ahead, take us away with the train station.
So we go to the train station. I mean, Lewis does the whole bell thing to get us inside, and then we eventually meet up with that random guy who wants to take all of our food.
I confirm his name. His name is Abel.
Abel.
Interesting. Okay.
Well, he wasn't able to take the food because I prevented him from taking the food.
Oh yeah.
So...
Oh yeah. And one other thing that I thought was really fun is that when AJ's giving you the food initially before Abel walks in, he one of the cans he hands you is a can of something called Banang, which Banang is something
Canned
that
bananas.
It's like banana like juice. It's they call it like tang Banang.
Oh, Banang.
But the interesting thing about that is that actually we actually on James Man Extreme's channel we're working on a Salmon Max season 2.
And they had Banang in it.
Banang was like one of the I think
somebody told me
in
about
Salmon
that.
Max, Banang seems to be like a running joke for Telltale, and that's why I was happy to see it also in the final season. It seems to be like a running thing for them.
Well, I was disappointed that one of the things that AJ handed Clementine was not the Clementine peaches.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen the Clementine peaches, and Clementine. I would have loved to have Clementine react to that.
Be careful, Hark, because they might put it in later.
Okay.
I was also
that would have been the one. It wasn't the Clementine song that would have triggered my Clementine. It would have been the peaches. I'd be like, no, we're not eating that. I hate peaches. I hate peaches.
I was also surprised that freaking you shut the door. The explosion of a grenade was contained within a cellar with the door shut. I was surprised there was even food left.
I thought the food would be all gone.
Yeah,
too.
I thought it would have been just decimated, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna try and provide the science behind this with grenades and everything. If it was like a really, let's say, I'm gonna assume a giant rectangular room, and it had so much food there. Let's say the grenade blew up, it might have just hit like certain pieces. Let's say these pieces must have been all the way in the back, like all the way in the back.
So it absorbed the shock. So various walls.
Yeah, no. I was actually going to say the things that were in the front must have absorbed like the big blow of it all. That's fair.
I feel like if there's a scientific explanation that we need or research, I feel like that's an other Carson question.
What are you trying to say? Should I go get him?
Nah,
I don't know. Well, it's only if he's not busy, which he probably is.
You know what? Just for your sake, I'll go get him right now. Hold on.
Okay, we're getting other Carson.
Well,
yes.
While he's getting another Carson, I forgot the name of it, and I don't know if either of you two remember the name. What is that name for a biological condition of having two different colored eyes? I know there's a name for it.
Yeah, I know there's a name for it too. One of the hi, other Carson.
What do you want?
I didn't want to interrupt you, other Carson, because I know you have very valuable time.
I was busy with apparently two things. One, I was preparing my trip to Cabo because Carson said I can actually finally go and rest and have a little vacation. And then apparently I was told, oh, wait, before you make that ticket and everything, Angel Arts and all the game, like the team, they need you. And I was like, okay, whatever. So what do you need?
We just want one simple question answered, and I don't know if you had the answer off the top of your head or if it's something that you could research if you have time. But we were wondering, is it possible for a bunch of food to hypothetically
Shield.
survive
Yeah.
even after a grenade explodes?
Were the
Right
floorboards
next to
all
them.
together, or were they like what were you walking on? Floorboards?
Yeah, that's the thing. They're floorboards. In the game, they're floorboards, but you shut the door,
Which is
on
a
the
metal
grenade,
door, yeah.
and all that's in there is like cans, like canned food and non-perishable items.
In glass
A grenade
jars.
right, the grenade explodes. Is it possible for them to survive, or is the game just trolling us?
It could be both, really. For first reason is if those floorboards have like some holes, some gaps, that explosion is not going to be contained. Obviously, as long as there's like a small little hint, then you're going to be able to do it. But it can't be the game trolling you. Most of that stuff would have been destroyed. Not all of it, but most of it. The blast has to be absorbed by something. And let's say you're saying hypothetically. All like there's a little bit of food. I can believe those could survive. Not everything could be destroyed,
Okay.
but like let's say 4/5 of it could have been destroyed.
Well, especially since, he wasn't handing up metal cans or bags. He was handing up glass jars.
Those should have been destroyed instantly.
Right.
Okay.
Just any
So
shockwave.
that probably was the game being a little
That's why I said the game could have been
Hand-wavy.
trolling you.
hand waving.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I knew we could count on you, Other Carson.
So I'm gonna go now because apparently he's waving green flag saying "Get over here." So I gotta go, and it's time for me to go to Cabo. Bye.
Thank you, Other Carson. Have a safe trip. I love you.
I love you. Bye. Not really.
I have these moments where I feel like I'm actually going insane. And I just don't know it yet. Maybe I'll just convince myself of it. But I'll find out what that word for different colored pupils is, because I know I've heard it, or irises, because I know I've heard that a few times.
Welcome back,
Carson.
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 Hope he wasn't too mean.
No, he was just as pleasant as I remembered him.
Yeah.
I've missed him so.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. Anyways, all I'm saying is most of it couldn't be destroyed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have
Okay, so
Yeah.
what
Abel.
Yes. Yes.
I like that name for the villain.
How did you guys deal with Abel?
pushed him.
You pushed him. Okay. Mark.
I let him take the food.
Oh, you let him take the food. How about you, Carson?
I pushed him, but
You pushed him.
I was really tempted to say AJ
So-
shoot. I was
Right,
really
so none of
tempted.
you had AJ shoot him.
Because I knew this is just my knowledge in history, or at least biology. He is bigger and he is a little faster than him, so AJ couldn't outrun him forever, or just shoot faster or react to him faster. But I noticed this about the stranger, or as we're gonna call him, Abel, which is his name. I noticed that Abel was like, he didn't want to shoot AJ. Like, I don't want to do this, kid. Don't make me.
Mhm.
So he was a little sympathetic and like, hey, look, I'm just a hungry guy. I'm here to get some food and everything. And then we'd be on our merry little way. And he's like, oh, well, hey there, kid. I got a bigger gun than you.
Right.
Mhm.
So he was a little sympathetic, but I pushed him because, like, you know, I'm going to wake up my Rick Grimes again, and I'm going to push you because this is my food and I earned it.
Also, yeah, Telltale knew what they were doing, having the guy who smokes Bible verses be named Abel. They knew.
Yeah.
I would have attacked, but I would not have told AJ to shoot him. But if you do, he dies. I mean, AJ
Oh.
dies, and you have to restart. So
Oh.
no, don't do that.
So now I'm glad you
Yeah.
I
mentioned
didn't know
yeah.
that.
Yeah, because if you tell Clemens like AJ shoot, and then Abel shoots first,
Yeah,
Kills-
because you're
kills
gonna alert
AJ.
him. Yeah.
and then he kills Clementine, and you have to restart. And if you remain silent, he also shoots, and you have to restart.
Oh, so he is
So,
just
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
huh.
but I
But,
would have pushed them.
Okay.
So what did you have? What did you do, Hark?
I also pushed him.
Okay.
And-
But I do want to find out from Mark what his reasoning was with his
Taking
choice.
food. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, he was just a survivor. He was hungry, just like Clementine and AJ were, and He said he was only going to take some of the food, which he did. He did not take all of it. So there was still leftover food for Clem and AJ to take over. But yeah, and I know that this is the apocalypse. Several years into the apocalypse, where it's like laws, they don't matter anymore. But if this guy's only crime was coming into the room, pointing a gun in my face, and all he wanted was food, it's like, I don't think that's grounds for murdering the guy.
That actually is a very interesting thing to know. That's an interesting new tidbit to know. Is I thought he was going to take everything.
That's what I thought too.
I thought he was going to take the entire lot of it, and that's why I reacted like that. Of we need this, and I didn't want to give it up. Had I known he was only going to take some of it, I would have easily the diplomatic part of my brain would have been way more like, no, let's talk, let's share this, let's go our separate ways, let's be cool. I didn't know that was going. So that's actually, that does, like, I do reflect on that choice a lot more differently now, actually.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Carson? Did you have a similar reasoning as Lucky Jack did for keeping the food or pushing him out the window?
I just looked at at least my group that took me in. I looked at it in this way. Like, look, my group took me in. They didn't have to. They could have just left me in the car to die and everything. But they took me in. They fed me what they could. I need to kind of pay them back and give them some food. And we all did this. We all worked together as a team. It would be really bad. And I thought he was going to take all of it, even though he took one bag. He picked up one bag. I knew, like, wait a minute, I need to get more than just this. And I wanted to make sure everyone actually had food, just enough food to take care of themselves. Like, could for like a few days, even if it was for a week. So I was like, I earned this food. You're not taking it. You're taking it just because you have a gun? I don't think so. I'm not doing this. And I have to poll for that. And Mark is in the minority in this. 78% of players attacked Abel rather than giving him food. 22% of players surrendered food to Abel. That was a bit of a shocker to me. I thought it would have been like 35 to 40% would give food to Abel.
I wonder how many of those players were using their own previous experiences with people like Abel from seasons 1 through 3 to color how they would decide to immediately react to someone like him in season 4.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Curious about how newcomers would treat. I'm curious to how newcomers who have never played a Telltale game would treat these exact same situations, not knowing what the game is capable of or what it could throw out at them.